Have you noticed the changes at your local grocery store? Prices are climbing, and some familiar items are becoming harder to find. This isn't just a coincidence. A combination of supply chain issues and unpredictable harvests is creating the perfect storm for food shortages. Experts are now pointing to mid-October as a critical time when the effects could become much more noticeable. Securing a few key items now can provide peace of mind and ensure your pantry is ready for whatever comes next. In this video, we're counting down the 6 essential foods you should consider stockpiling before October 15th as the warnings of coming shortages grow louder. Let's get prepared together. 1. The foundation, long-lasting root vegetables. When planning a resilient pantry, root vegetables should be your first consideration. Items like potatoes, carrots, onions, beets, and parsnips are nutritional powerhouses with a natural durability that few other fresh foods can match. Their ability to last for weeks or even months in proper storage makes them an essential buffer against disruptions in the fresh produce supply chain. As we approach a period of increased uncertainty, securing these staples is a practical step toward food security. The primary concern right now revolves around future availability. Reports indicate that potato seed stocks for the 2025 planting season are alarmingly low, which directly points to smaller harvests down the road. This isn't just a future problem. Current storage losses are already on the rise due to disease and inadequate infrastructure, meaning fewer high-quality potatoes are making it to market shelves. Across the Atlantic, European potato crops are also facing significant pressure from agricultural diseases like early blight and white mold, compounding the global supply issue. Producers are fighting back with more aggressive fungicide treatments and investing in advanced, climate-controlled storage facilities to mitigate these losses. However, these measures often translate into higher costs for the consumer. The inherent hardiness of root vegetables, characterized by their thick skins and resilience, allows them to be stored in cool, dark, and dry places without the need for refrigeration. This makes them accessible and easy to manage for any household. Data from 2024 already showed a noticeable decline in the availability of fresh vegetables in the United States, with a significant drop in processed forms like canned and frozen goods. As other fresh produce becomes scarcer and more expensive due to logistical challenges or poor harvests, the demand for reliable root vegetables will inevitably surge. Stocking up now provides a crucial shield against unpredictable factors like truck delays, soaring fuel costs, or extreme weather events that can cripple supply lines overnight. The increasing frequency of climatic events, such as droughts and unexpected cold snaps, is already impacting yields in major potato-growing regions, adding another layer of risk. 2. Hardy fruits, nature's resilient sweets. Beyond vegetables, hardy fruits like apples are becoming an increasingly vital component of a well-stocked pantry. While initial harvest forecasts might appear optimistic, the reality is that a smaller percentage of these fruits are making it into long-term storage in good condition. For instance, inventory levels in U.S.-controlled atmosphere storage facilities in July 2025 were down significantly compared to the previous month, and were approximately 5% lower than the same period last year. This is a clear indicator that the supply of quality apples meant to last through the winter and into the next season is shrinking. Regional variations add to the complexity. While Washington State projects a strong harvest, growers there warn that persistent labor shortages could prevent a significant portion of the crop from being picked, sorted, and shipped in time. This gap between potential yield and actual market availability is a critical vulnerability. What makes apples and similar fruits like pears and some citrus varieties so valuable during uncertain times is their remarkable durability. Certain apple varieties, including Gala, Red Delicious, and Granny Smith, are specifically bred for long-term storage. When kept in controlled temperature and low oxygen environments, they can maintain their flavor and texture for months, long after more delicate fruits have disappeared from stores. This resilience also makes them better suited to withstand the rigors of transportation, which is a major advantage when supply chains face delays. However, risks remain. Apples harvested in excessively wet conditions or left on the tree for too long are more susceptible to storage diseases, In some regions, unusual weather patterns have accelerated ripening, resulting in fruit that looks ready but lacks the firmness required for long-term storage. As global demand for apples remains consistently high, any regional shortfall quickly tightens the market and drives up prices. By securing a supply of these hardy fruits before mid-October, you can bridge the gap between seasonal abundance and winter scarcity, ensuring a reliable source of fiber, vitamins, and natural sweetness. 3. Canned goods, the shelf-stable safety net. In any conversation about food preparedness, canned vegetables stand out as a non-negotiable staple. Their long shelf life, nutritional retention, and convenience make them an essential safety net. Currently, the supply of canned goods is facing pressure from multiple directions, making it a critical category to stock up on before potential shortages become more acute. One of the most significant factors is the rising cost of production. Tariffs on steel, a primary component of food cans, have driven up the price of tin plate. This increase is inevitably passed on to consumers, making the canned goods already on shelves cheaper than what will replace them. Furthermore, the food industry itself is experiencing instability. Major companies have faced financial difficulties, leading to restructuring that can disrupt production and reduce the variety of products available. Any hiccup in the manufacturing process can lead to temporary but impactful shortages at the retail level. Simultaneously, consumer demand for canned vegetables is on a steady incline. Busy lifestyles have made shelf-stable, convenient meal solutions more popular than ever. Market reports project continued growth in this sector, but the supply chain is struggling to keep pace. Volatility in raw material prices, labor shortages on farms, and logistical bottlenecks all pose a risk to a steady supply. In many areas, the infrastructure for processing and freezing fresh produce cannot handle harvest surges, meaning vegetables that could have been canned may spoil instead. Food safety incidents and product recalls, while necessary, also temporarily remove large quantities of products from circulation, further tightening available inventory. All these factors combined create a perfect storm for price hikes and reduced availability. By stocking up now on a variety of canned items like tomatoes, corn, peas, and green beans, you create a reliable buffer. These items are resilient to supply shocks and provide essential nutrients when fresh options are limited or prohibitively expensive. Waiting until the shelves start to empty means facing higher prices and a much smaller selection. 4. Liquid gold, the growing scarcity of pure honey. Honey, often called liquid gold for its natural benefits and long shelf life, is facing a precarious supply situation that makes it a strategic item to secure. A convergence of environmental and economic pressures is threatening production, signaling that reliable access to pure, high-quality honey may diminish. The most alarming trend comes from beekeepers themselves, who are reporting unprecedented colony losses. In the United States, commercial beekeeping operations saw devastating losses of up to 62% of their colonies between mid-2024 and early 2025. This figure is drastically higher than typical winter losses and raises serious questions about the long-term viability of honey production. This isn't just an American problem, it's a symptom of a global crisis in pollinator health. Climate disruption is a major contributor, with erratic weather patterns like heat waves and droughts shortening the flowering seasons of plants. Fewer blossoms mean less nectar for bees to collect, which directly translates to lower honey yields per hive. Compounding the supply issue is a surge in consumer demand, particularly for organic and raw honey. As more people seek natural alternatives to processed sugar, the market for specialty honey has boomed. However, the supply chain for these premium products is fragile. Major honey-producing nations are grappling with regulatory hurdles, certification delays for organic products, and environmental stressors that reduce output. These bottlenecks create a significant gap between what consumers want and what producers can deliver. Furthermore, the global market is contending with rising wholesale prices fueled by higher production costs and persistent issues with fraud. Adulteration, where honey is diluted with cheaper sugar syrups, remains a widespread problem, forcing stricter regulations and testing. This process increases costs for legitimate producers and reduces the amount of genuine, unblended honey available. Even as some regions try to increase the number of hives, the yield per colony is declining due to the persistent threats of varroa mites, habitat loss, and pesticide exposure. When stored correctly in dark, sealed containers, honey is incredibly shelf-stable and can last for years, making it an excellent emergency food. Given the combination of collapsing colonies, climate-driven nectar shortages, and rising demand, stocking up on authentic, raw, or organic honey before mid-October is a wise move to avoid future price hikes and quality compromises. 5. Pantry powerhouses, nutrient-dense nuts and dried fruits. Nuts and dried fruits are cornerstones of a resilient pantry, offering a potent combination of healthy fats, protein, fiber, and micronutrients in a shelf-stable format. However, the global supply of these nutrient-dense staples is becoming increasingly tight, making them a key category to secure ahead of potential shortages. Projections for 2025 indicate a dip in the global production of dried fruits, while consumer demand continues to climb. This imbalance is already creating tangible effects in the market. For example, dried apricot exports from Turkey's renowned Malatya region have seen a significant drop in value, with suppliers noting a shortage of goods well before the peak demand season. Similarly, raisin production has been severely impacted by frost damage in key growing areas, causing prices to rise sharply as available supplies dwindle. The situation is so strained that China's 2024 Sultana stocks are reportedly sold out, placing immense pressure on the new season's harvest. The nut market is facing its own set of challenges. Brazil nuts are on track for a steep decline, with major producers like Bolivia and Brazil anticipating crop drops of around 40%. This will inevitably tighten supply in import-reliant markets. Pistachios are also under strain due to fluctuating yields and trade uncertainties among top producers. Even for nuts with modest growth projections, such as macadamias, walnuts, and almonds, demand is rising at a pace that supply chains are struggling to match. Climate change is a recurring villain in this story, with droughts, poorly timed rains, and heat waves disrupting harvests in major producing regions. Beyond weather, these products are vulnerable to trade tariffs, labor shortages, and logistical bottlenecks that can choke off supply long before shelves appear empty. Because of their high nutritional value and long shelf life, nuts and dried fruits are invaluable when fresh produce becomes scarce or expensive. Stocking a diverse mix of these items now, including mixed nuts, raisins, dried apricots, and figs, is a proactive measure against future price inflation and limited availability. Waiting until shortages become obvious will likely mean paying a premium for whatever is left. 6. Your daily ritual, the squeeze on coffee and tea. For many, a day without coffee or tea is unimaginable, yet the supply chains for these beloved beverages are under immense strain. Securing your supply now could be crucial, as market indicators point toward a sustained period of tightness and rising prices. The coffee market is currently navigating one of its most challenging situations in years. Arabica futures, a key benchmark for coffee prices, have soared due to a combination of tariffs on Brazilian imports and severe droughts in major growing regions like Brazil and Vietnam. This has translated directly to higher costs for consumers, with retail prices for ground coffee in the U.S. jumping significantly. The weather instability has been particularly damaging, as erratic rainfall and high temperatures have disrupted the critical flowering seasons, leading to smaller bean yields. While efforts are underway to plant new coffee trees, these seedlings will not reach maturity and produce at scale for several years, meaning the current supply crunch is unlikely to ease in the short term. The tea industry is facing a parallel set of pressures. Matcha, a popular powdered green tea, has seen a notable drop in production in Japan due to recent heat waves affecting the tencha leaf harvest. With output down and global demand for matcha having surged in recent years, sharp price hikes have become unavoidable. Tariffs on imports are further inflating costs for consumers. Across the broader tea industry, producers are citing rising operational costs and thinning margins as major concerns. While auction prices for some tea leaves have fallen, this often reflects weakened demand in specific segments rather than a true easing of supply-side pressures. For both coffee and tea, Premium and specialty varieties are typically the first to become scarce or prohibitively expensive during a supply squeeze. Lower-cost commodity options may remain available, but the quality, flavor, and variety will likely decline. Given that both beverages are globally traded commodities highly dependent on climate, trade policies, and labor conditions, they are exceptionally vulnerable to disruption. Stockpiling your preferred coffee and tea before mid-October is a practical way to ensure you have your daily ritual covered, protecting you from the escalating prices and shrinking selection that lie ahead. Bonus point 7, the unsung hero, shelf-stable milk and dairy alternatives. While fresh dairy is a staple in most households, its short shelf life makes it one of the first categories to become unreliable during a supply chain disruption. This is where shelf-stable milk and its non-dairy alternatives become indispensable. These products, often overlooked during a routine grocery run, provide a critical source of calcium, protein, and other essential nutrients that can be stored for months without refrigeration. The supply chains for both dairy and plant-based milks are facing unique pressures that make them a smart addition to any forward-thinking pantry. For traditional dairy, rising operational costs on farms, from animal feed to energy, are squeezing producer margins. Any disruption, such as a transportation strike or regional fuel shortage, can quickly halt the delivery of fresh milk, as its highly perishable nature leaves no room for delays. This vulnerability makes UHT ultra-high temperature milk an incredibly valuable asset. This is real dairy milk that has been pasteurized at a higher temperature, allowing it to remain safe and stable in a sealed container for up to a year. On the other side of the aisle, plant-based milks like oat, almond, soy, and rice milk are also facing supply chain complexities. The demand for these alternatives has skyrocketed, but the agricultural inputs they depend on are subject to the same climate and logistical risks as other crops. For instance, almond farming is incredibly water-intensive, making it vulnerable to drought conditions that are becoming more frequent and severe in growing regions like California. Oat milk production relies on a steady supply of high-quality oats, which can be impacted by poor harvests or transportation bottlenecks. As these categories grow, their intricate supply chains become more susceptible to strain. By securing a supply of shelf-stable dairy or plant-based milks now, you build a powerful buffer against future uncertainty. These products offer tremendous versatility, serving as a base for cereals, a key ingredient in baking, or a simple, nutritious beverage. When fresh options are unavailable or their prices have spiked, having a reliable reserve of milk in your pantry ensures your nutritional needs and daily routines can continue uninterrupted. It is a simple, effective step to ensure you have a foundational ingredient on hand, regardless of what happens in the wider market. Bonus point 8, the protein powerhouse, canned and dried meats. In times of food scarcity, securing reliable protein sources is a top priority. While fresh meat is highly perishable and frozen meat requires constant electricity, canned and dried meat offer a robust, long-lasting solution. Products like canned tuna, salmon, chicken, and beef, along with dried meats like jerky, provide high-quality protein that is ready to eat and can be stored safely for years. The supply chains supporting these products are facing a number of challenges that underscore the wisdom of stocking up. The global fishing industry, for example, is grappling with overfishing, shifting oceanic temperatures that affect fish populations, and rising fuel costs for fishing fleets. These factors are leading to tighter quotas and higher prices for popular canned fish like tuna and salmon. Canned salmon, in particular, has seen significant price increases as wild-caught populations face environmental pressures. By purchasing these items now, you can lock in current prices before they climb further. Similarly, the production of canned and dried terrestrial meats is not immune to disruption. The livestock industry is sensitive to the cost of grain for feed, labor shortages at processing plants, and transportation logistics. We've seen how quickly processing plant shutdowns can impact the availability of fresh meat on store shelves. While the canning process provides a buffer, any sustained disruption in the supply of raw meat will eventually affect the production and availability of these canned goods. Dried meats, such as beef jerky, offer an incredibly nutrient-dense and portable protein source, but they are often considered a premium product. Their prices are closely tied to the cost of fresh meat, and as those costs rise, jerky will become a less affordable option. Having a reserve of these protein sources is not just about emergency preparedness, it's about nutritional resilience. They can be easily incorporated into meals to add substance and flavor, from making a quick tuna salad to adding canned chicken to soups and pastas. Securing a variety of these shelf-stable proteins before mid-October ensures your household has a critical macronutrient covered, providing peace of mind and dietary stability when other options may be limited. Bonus point 9. The versatile essential, cooking oils and fats. Cooking oils and fats are foundational to nearly every meal, yet they are often forgotten in discussions about stockpiling. Without a stable supply of oil or fat, cooking becomes incredibly difficult, and the nutritional value of meals can be compromised. Healthy fats are essential for absorbing certain vitamins and providing sustained energy. The global market for cooking oils is currently experiencing significant volatility, making it a critical category to secure. Major vegetable oils, including sunflower, palm, and soybean oil, are traded on a global scale and are highly susceptible to geopolitical events, climate change, and trade policy shifts. For example, the conflict in Ukraine, a major producer of sunflower oil, created a worldwide shortage and sent prices soaring. While the market has adjusted, it highlighted the fragility of a supply chain dependent on a few key regions. Similarly, palm oil production is under scrutiny for its environmental impact, and regulatory changes could easily restrict supply and increase costs. Even domestically produced oils are not entirely safe. Canola and soybean oil production in North America is dependent on successful harvests, which are increasingly threatened by unpredictable weather patterns like drought and flooding. A poor harvest for a key oilseed crop can have a ripple effect across the entire market, leading to higher prices for all types of cooking oils as manufacturers switch to more expensive alternatives. The shelf life of cooking oils varies, but most will last for at least a year if stored in a cool, dark place. Options like coconut oil and ghee, clarified butter, are particularly stable and can last even longer. By diversifying your pantry with a few different types of oils, you are not only preparing for potential shortages, but also equipping yourself with the tools for versatile and nutritious cooking. Whether you need a high-heat oil for frying or a flavorful olive oil for dressings, having a supply on hand is a simple but powerful step. Given the interconnected and fragile nature of the global cooking oil market, stocking up on this kitchen essential before mid-October is a prudent move to insulate your household from future price shocks and availability issues. Bonus point 10. The bedrock of meals, grains, rice, and pasta. When building a resilient food supply, grains, rice, and pasta form the bedrock upon which countless meals are built. These calorie-dense, shelf-stable carbohydrates are fundamental for providing energy and satiety, making them one of the most important categories to secure. Their ability to be stored for years and serve as a versatile base for dishes makes them a non-negotiable part of any well-stocked pantry. The global supply chain for these staples, however, is far from secure. Rice, a primary food source for more than half of the world's population, is particularly vulnerable to both climate change and policy shifts. Major rice-producing countries in Asia have faced erratic monsoon seasons, leading to both droughts and floods that devastate harvests. In response, some nations have implemented export bans or restrictions to protect their domestic supply, which immediately sends shockwaves through the global market and causes prices to spike for importing countries. These actions create a domino effect, tightening the availability of a food that billions depend on. Wheat, the key ingredient in pasta and flour, faces similar challenges. Major wheat-producing regions, including North America, Australia, and the Black Sea region, have been contending with extreme weather events that impact yield and quality. Geopolitical tensions can also instantly disrupt the flow of wheat, as seen with conflicts that have threatened one of the world's most significant breadbaskets. These disruptions affect everything from the price of a loaf of bread to the availability of pasta on store shelves. The cost of production is also rising, with higher prices for fuel, fertilizer, and transportation being passed on to consumers. While you may still see these items on shelves today, the underlying market dynamics suggest that both price and availability could change quickly. By dedicating space in your pantry to a variety of these staples, such as long-grain white rice, whole wheat pasta, oats, and quinoa, you create a foundational food reserve. These items are not just for emergencies. They are a practical hedge against inflation and supply chain fragility, ensuring you can put a filling meal on the table no matter what external pressures arise. Bonus point 11. The flavor essentials, salt, spices, and bouillon. A stockpile of food is only as good as its flavor. In a long-term scenario where food choices may become monotonous, the ability to create varied and enjoyable meals is crucial for morale. This is where salt, spices, and bouillon come in. These flavor essentials are often overlooked, but are pound for pound some of the most valuable items you can store. They take up minimal space, have an incredibly long shelf life, and can transform basic ingredients like rice and beans into a delicious and satisfying dish. Salt is more than just a seasoning. It's a vital electrolyte necessary for bodily functions and a traditional preservative for meats and vegetables. While it may seem abundant, its production and distribution are still part of a complex industrial supply chain that can be disrupted. Spices, on the other hand, are often sourced from specific regions around the world, making their supply chains long and fragile. A single poor harvest, political instability in a key producing country, or a shipping bottleneck can lead to shortages or dramatic price increases for spices like black pepper, cinnamon, or cumin. Bouillon cubes or powders are a compact and shelf-stable way to add a deep, savory flavor to soups, stews, and sauces. They provide the rich taste of chicken, beef, or vegetable stock without the need for refrigeration or extensive preparation. Like spices, their production relies on a complex web of agricultural and manufacturing inputs, all of which are subject to supply chain pressures. During a time of crisis or scarcity, having these flavor-enhancing items can make a significant psychological difference. A warm, flavorful meal can be a source of comfort and normalcy. Furthermore, as food prices rise, the cost of these seemingly small items will increase as well. Stocking up now on bulk salt, essential spices, and a generous supply of bouillon is a low-cost, high-impact preparedness step. It ensures that no matter how simple your ingredients are, you will always have the means to create a meal that is not only nourishing, but also genuinely enjoyable. This simple act of planning can be one of the most effective ways to maintain a sense of well-being during uncertain times. Bonus point 12, the hidden gem, legumes, beans, and lentils. Legumes, including all varieties of dried beans and lentils, are the unsung heroes of food security. They are nutritional powerhouses, packed with protein, fiber, and essential minerals, and they boast an exceptionally long shelf life when stored properly. Their low cost and versatility make them one of the most efficient and practical food sources to stockpile. A bag of dried beans can be transformed into dozens of different meals, from hearty chilies and stews to salads and side dishes. Despite their humble appearance, the supply of these essential legumes is facing growing uncertainty. The primary growing regions for beans and lentils are susceptible to the same climate volatility that affects other crops. Droughts can significantly reduce yields, while ill-timed rains can damage crops before they can be harvested. As a result, the market for dried beans and lentils can experience sharp price swings based on seasonal harvest outcomes. Furthermore, while many legumes are grown domestically, the global market plays a significant role in price and availability. An increase in demand from one part of the world can tighten supply in another. For example, lentils are a staple food in many countries, and any disruption to the major producers in Canada or India can have a widespread impact. Canned beans are a convenient alternative, but they are subject to the same production and transportation issues as other canned goods, including rising costs for steel and shipping. By focusing on dried legumes, you can store a much larger quantity of food in a smaller space and for a lower cost. A well-rounded stockpile should include a variety of types, such as black beans, pinto beans, chickpeas, andrid, and green lentils. This diversity not only provides a range of flavors and textures, but also a broader spectrum of nutrients. Securing a substantial supply of these shelf-stable proteins is one of the smartest and most cost-effective investments you can make in your household's food resilience.